Okay, so now let's go over page elements. What I mean by that is padding, text, fonts, all that good stuff. Everything except adding things from this area. We're going to cover that in the next video. One by one. We'll go through all of these guys here. So basically from the home page, you'll notice that you have the ability to raise and lower areas. So when you hover over any specific area, like here we have a green overlay that shows us there's 150 pixels right up top that we can make shorter or taller. So we can take both these down to 40 if we like, which is going to make the banner much smaller, but if that's what we're trying to accomplish, that's not a problem. As you can see, it's only going to let you go in as far as that green area is. So that's the smallest I can actually make that banner. But that's a really nice feature that you'll see all over. So as you can see, all this padding is built into here, and we can create negative space wherever we like. So if I feel like these should be separated a little more, I can do that. Also within these areas, if you click on an area, you'll notice that you have the text of the area, and what we're going to do is go through and look at some of the items within this and things you can do. So let's go ahead first and make this a little bit bigger again by just clicking these corners and dragging it bigger. So first, let's look at the HTML element font. So from the admin label, that's for me. So let's say Welcome to Pride. It's not necessary, but we're going to put it there anyway. So under the title, this is the Welcome to the Pride of Illinois. It inserted these line breaks for me because I moved it to a new row. Again, we don't have to know code. Here we can select an element for this, which heading tags are very important for search engine optimization. So if we select an H1 heading tag for anything that's very important, that's probably what we're going to want to select. Now these all do look a bit different when you select them. But in our situation, since we're defining what every single thing looks like, we don't have to worry too much. So make sure important things are just set to H1. So if we want to add a link to this, we can simply add the link right here by clicking link. Or if you click this button here, we can link it to a page on our website just by clicking that page right there. Or add an attachment if we want them to download a schedule or an event. We can click on this and again upload the schedule, and we're good to go. They'll be able to click that link for that. Here we have the font family. So we have several Google fonts already loaded. So if we want to change this, you'll see there's just, hundreds of fonts here. So if there's one that you do seem to like, just select that font, and it's going to put that font up there for you. And all of these are built within Google Fonts, so they're going to work on every single device. So I'm going to switch this back to something else there. Well, the Pride of Illinois. Fine, there we go. So here I can change the font size itself. So let's say, I really want it to be a big font. Well, clearly that doesn't fit, but I want it big like that. So that's where line height comes in. When we make it too big or too small sometimes, we have to change this line height. So if I scroll this slider down, it's going to put everything on top of each other. If I go up, we're going to be able to separate those words and get them right exactly where we want them. There we go. Here we also have the ability to underline, italicize, and bold out our fonts. We also have letter spacing. So we can put these letters closer or farther apart. So if I want to make them 5 pixels apart, I can do that. It's just going to put more space in between these, the actual letters themselves. Generally, you're just going to leave that on default. Text transition. If I just know that I want everything capitalized, I can click capitalize. If I know that I want everything in lowercase, I'll just click lowercase. It's going to automatically do that for me so I don't have any mistakes. I'm going to leave that to none. Margins and paddings are important. Now remember, all of this is the same for all of these areas on here. But let's look at margins and padding. So if you click this little guy here, the lock, then you can just set margins and padding wherever you like. What is margins and padding? Padding is just the space in between things. For instance, this number 77, that's padding that's built into the top of this. So from within here, I can actually set whatever I want inside this heading. So if I add padding to the top here, I want to add 40 pixels, it's going to push that down 40 pixels from the top. But that's padding, as you see how it dropped down there. So let's say I want to do 100 pixels from the top. Okay, it's going to drop it down a lot. That's too much. So you can just kind of decide what you want. Let's say I want this to move over to the right a little bit. You just simply, too much. You just simply add what you want. Left, right, up, down, it's all right here. Margin is the same thing. So the margin is the actual area that's around something, and the padding is within that item. So margin is generally outside, padding is inside. So if I want to add 20 pixels to something, I can do that. The reason some of these won't work in this heading area is because a lot of this is kind of predefined. And our padding's already built in up here. As you can see, that's not changing any numbers on this specific page, but we're going to get to that under the Style tab next. And again, most of these options you don't necessarily have to use when it comes to spacing and fonts and titles and colors, but it's nice to have these options. And you're not always necessarily going to use them. Under the title icon, you can actually select an icon if you feel like one will go with your title. So if you want to say, this weird little title here, oh, that looks good, right? You can add any of these little icons to the top of what you're doing there. Just another fun design element. Content center, so we can set left or right or center. So set left there, right, center. Text shadow is just the actual shadow behind the text. Obviously, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you can change all that and add more or less. I would pretty much leave these guys alone. The vertical offset, horizontal offset, and blur. I really don't think there's much you're going to need to do with those. Under style, we can change the text color. If there was a link, we could change the link color, which we don't have a link right now, and the link hover color. So if, when they're hovered over it, it's not as dark, or maybe it's a black when they hover over it, so you know that you're actually on that link. Background options is a wonderful thing. So right now we're set to none, but there's a ton of things we can do here. So let's say I don't have a picture right off the jump that I want to use or something like that. I can actually set, and again, this is just in the heading, so it's only going to put that gradient behind the actual text. That doesn't really work. So we would want to add that gradient behind the picture. So again, since it says heading right here, we're just in the heading area. So that's what we're focused on now. So really, any of these things over here, we're not going to use a whole lot because this is just for the text itself. But if I wanted to put a background image just behind where this blue line border is, in just this area, not a problem. Or I can just create a background color. There's white. Clearly we don't want to do that, but there might be situations or times when that makes sense. Now, let's say we wanted to change, because that pretty much covers all of the areas as far as changing any of the text color, font, everything. And as you can see, it's still the same in all of these. So here I can change anything I want, the same stuff. Click Style. I can change this text color to a black if I want black, which you can't see. But if I want to match this and put it in red, very simple. Again, I'm just clicking on the element and selecting what I want. Now let's say for this image in the background, we wanted to put an overlay on it because it's kind of a bright image. We're going to click on that, go to Style. So as you can see, we have background options. We're selecting the image. So this is the image for the background. And if I want to, I can actually go ahead and select color or gradient. Select my gradient colors to make everything exactly how I want. Or here I can select video. I can add and enable a YouTube video in the background by clicking yes, adding my video link here. Now I have a nice video header, which are very popular right now. That pretty much covers those areas. Let's switch it back to image here. And let's look here. We also, under an image, have different options. So we have just whether it's going to repeat in the background, what the background size is, the center. But this one here is important. Overlay options. So for instance, this one, if I select none, see how much brighter this area is? It's much, much brighter. And sometimes it's actually hard to read text. So I'm going to change this heading color back to white. I'm going to change this back to white. And I'm going to click here on this green tab to go to this outline box. Because remember, we're clicking on the area that's surrounded by whatever. If we want to do this area, we're going to click the pencil for this area that's surrounded by the blue box. This green box is a different type of area. What I mean by that is we have options. In other words, if I click here, I can change this entire thing. Let's say I've decided I just want to change the entire top layout. And now I would like to have two pictures next to each other. I simply click that, and I have the two, I can assign the two pictures next to each other, overlaid on this image. Very simple. So I'm going to go back and just click regular because that's what I want. But let's say I wanted to put 4 things on top of here. I just click 4 and I drag those elements over, change the text size. Very easy. Let's switch this back. Going back to our overlay, as you notice under style here, we have our overlay option. So I'm going to select color. See how that just got darker? It's because I selected here to create an overlay. So I selected the color black, and here I can kind of drag the slider to make that background darker or lighter, all the way to where it has nothing. So I try to give it a little bit of color just so it looks good. Another really fun thing is enable shape. So here we have a top shape and a bottom shape. If you select the shape itself, you can see now we have these cool little clouds at the top. I can switch that to brush or any of these guys here. There's tons of them. A little slope, wavy, and these are kind of fun. You can change the color, make it match what your school's doing. Very simple, very easy to use. So there's one for the top and one for the bottom. There's the bottom one. Just kind of fun, makes things look good. Again, you can change the color here. You can also change the width and the height of this. So if we want to make it really tall or really skinny, just go in and change that there. You can flip it here to make that go on the other side. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it that you're going to do. You can use width to make it kind of stretched out a little more. Usually you're not going to want to mess with that, but the idea is we can really get down, and if we want to, we can keep things very simple. But if we'd like to, we could really go in with a fine-tooth comb and make a lot of these changes that it would cost us a lot of money to have anyone else do. So it's very easy to go in, get all these things set up and looking nice, and that pretty much covers all of your padding and spacing and areas. The one other thing I really want to focus on and explain are these row options. So when you click on this, remember, you can create 4. 1, you could even do this one here, 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom. And all you have to do is click and drag an element from over here to over here. So now let's go ahead and talk about our layouts, blocks, and elements in our add-ons area.